Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another range report. And today's range report is on another high-end P320 from Sig Sauer. This is the P320 Equinox. Now the actual model is a bunch of numbers and letters which I will put in the description, and it tells a lot about the features of this gun if you know how to decode that. But I'll talk a little bit about that in just a minute. But before I do, I want to thank all the people that make these videos possible. First and foremost is the owner of this awesome P320. He is a local fan and subscriber. His name is Ken. Ken, thank you so much once again for lending a fantastic gun for me to shoot and letting me shoot the first shots through it. I want to thank my Patreon supporters as always, because through their monthly donation and support, they help keep the lights on around here. As you guys know, I am a YouTube bad boy because I make firearms content, even though it's pretty PG or family friendly. And when they don't monetize my content, it makes it a little bit hard for me to keep this project going. But my Patreon supporters are there for me. And if you want to be a Patreon supporter, you can join for as low as $1 a month. Just go over there to my Patreon page and you get all these videos early and ad-free. And as always, I want to thank the person that provides all of the ammunition for these range reports. He is an awesome craftsman of fine wooden grips. His name is Mark, and he owns the company Brownworks. And yes, I know I am a broken record. In every single one of these range reports, I talk about Mark and Brownworks. Brownworks is one of the, if not the best custom grip company in the world. Mark can make custom one-off grips for your fine firearms. He makes them out of exotic woods, out of exotic materials, and can even put on custom logos and engravings. Anything you can think of, I guarantee you Mark can create. You will have one-of-a-kind grips, not only for pistols, but also AR-15s. Yes, I had never even heard of wooden grips for AR-15s before talking to Mark. And take a look at what he can create. That is really cool. He also offers other services like laser engraving PMags, 1911 magazines, and AK-47 mags. So he has products and services for everyone. I'm going to put a link in the description below. Please go down there, click it, see what he has to offer. I'm also going to put a discount code for 10% off your first order. If you don't find what you're looking for, please contact Mark. I guarantee that he can hook you up with what you're looking for. His customer service is the best in the industry. And when you do, please tell him the Texas Gun Vault sent you. All right, so let's talk about what this awesome pistol is. Once again, it is a P320 from Sig Sauer. It has a AGX frame, so it is an aluminum frame, even though it looks like it is a polymer frame. It can accept those panel grips, and yes, those Brownworks grips would look fantastic on this. And it has the Equinox cosmetic package. So all of the high points of the gun are kind of sanded down or milled down to give you a satin stainless look. All of the low points are nitride finished, and all of the controls are in silver. So it has a really cool look to it, including the trigger, the slide stop, the magazine release. It looks very, very nice and attractive. So let's talk about the things that I like and don't like about this gun. And I always want to start with the positive first. And actually, I've already mentioned 3 of those things and just telling you about what this gun is. First and foremost, it is a P320. It is one of the most cool designs of any pistol that has ever been made, in my personal opinion, because of its modularity. You can take the trigger out of this gun, which is the serialized part. You can put it into a larger frame, a smaller frame. You can change the calibers. You can put on different slides. It can be a gun that can be custom made to your heart's desire. And that is what is so innovative about it. Now, when I first got into guns 10 to 12 years ago, you would buy a Glock or a 1911. You were pretty much stuck with that frame. You might have some other customization that you could do, but you can build a P320 from individual parts. In a way, it's kind of like the pistol version of an AR-15, because you guys know you can build an AR-15 with just parts you can buy, and you can customize it and tailor it just to you. The P320 is exactly the same. I really like these AGX frames as well. I just told you about what they are. An aluminum frame. It adds a lot of heft and weight to this gun. It feels like a real gun versus it feeling like a toy like many of its polymer competitors. So in many ways, it's like a modern Beretta 92 or a Colt 1911. No, I'm not saying it's like those guns in the way that it shoots. I'm just saying it feels like a gun. It's heavy, it's metallic versus the polymer. Some people are going to like that, some people aren't. I definitely think the metallic frames are going to last a little bit longer, and they feel a little bit more substantial and real to me. And then, of course, I like that Equinox finish. Yeah, that stainless against the nitride, it just looks fantastic. How can you argue with that cosmetic package? And then finally, I really like the sights that come out of the box on these. These are those Sig Sauer X-ray sights. So you get night sights that are 3-dot right out of the box. They're made of metal. Versus other guns like Glocks that most of the time when you buy a Glock, the first thing you do is take those sights off and buy a set of Trigicons, something you can actually see and use. Well, Sig gives you high quality sights right out of the box, and the slide is also milled for a red dot in case you want to go in that direction. Now let's talk about the one thing about this gun that I don't like, and it's the same complaint I have with a lot of other modern guns, and more specifically the high-end P320s, and that is the trigger is flat-faced. Why do they gotta make every single trigger in the high-end P320s a flat-faced trigger? Now, I know people will tell me all the advantages of flat-faced triggers. I hear it. I understand. I just don't like it. I've shot many guns like that. It's not that my mind is not open to them. It is just I don't shoot them as well. And before you go into the comments and say, train, 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 it just doesn't feel good. I really prefer a slightly curved trigger because that's the natural shape of my finger. My finger isn't a flat object. Plus, this is a hinge trigger. So when I pull the trigger back, the top part of my finger moves less than the bottom part of my finger. I don't like that. It feels odd to me. I can deal with a flat-faced 1911 trigger because that trigger goes straight back into the frame. A hinge trigger, I just don't like it. It's just a personal preference. I'm saying I'm not going to dock any points off the review for that. I'm just saying that for me personally, I just like my triggers to be slightly curved, regardless of what all of the other internet gun heroes say. I just don't like that flat-faced trigger, and that's what I don't like about it, and that's really the only thing. I just wish Sig would offer different options on their triggers, but they push these flat-faced triggers so hard. I just wish they wouldn't. So, I've babbled on a lot about this gun, so let's get this thing to the range. I'm going to set up the target at 7 yards, load up one of these high-capacity magazines. Well, it's the standard capacity magazine for this model, but it holds 17 rounds. Yes, the same as that Glock 17, and what feels like a little bit smaller gun, a more compact gun than a Glock 17. So that is really cool. I'm curious to see if I'm going to like this AGX frame with this particular trigger. I gotta see how the sights work, what the recoil impulse is, and of course just make sure that this gun functions like it should. So here we go, 7 yards, 17 rounds, and let's just get my initial thoughts and impressions. So from the onset, this gun is feeling pretty good. The accuracy is okay. It is not my best, but I know I could shoot it better if it wasn't for a problem with this gun. Now, we're going to talk about this problem because it's one that I've had with another Sig product, the SP2022. When I did a range report on that gun, I had something that I referred to as a false reset, a audible and tactile sound and click that wasn't the reset, making you think the trigger is reset, but it's not. And when I released that previous video, I had a ton of people in the comment section tell me how stupid I was. Theirs doesn't do it. You just must have a defective product. Well, okay. Well, this gun is brand new. That SP2022 I had was used. So this was the first shots through this, and I'm having a very similar problem. But let me go ahead and show you what I discovered. I will safety check this firearm. Let me bring it over here to the camera. We will pull this trigger back. Let me cycle the slide. And now I'm going to release the trigger a little bit. Ah, there it goes, right? That is the tactile and audible reset. Uh-oh, it's not. No, there it is again, right? Ha, fooled you. Yeah, you gotta fully release that trigger to get the real reset. Now, I have discovered that when I release the trigger quickly, it does this false reset, but if I go really slow, it does not. So I believe it is a defect with this trigger, and there it was. You could see it did not fully reset. And so if you're used to riding the reset or relying upon that audible and tactile click like you do with Glocks, and that happens, you feel, okay, trigger's reset. Ha, surprise, it's not, and it throws off your accuracy. In fact, when I was shooting this gun, because I was releasing the trigger fast, I was starting to have to count the clicks in my head. I would hear click, click, and then bang. Click, click, bang. It was an extra step that I wasn't used to. So what this problem is, I do not know. Now, I know some of you guys are going to go run to your safes and pull out your P320s and see if it has that. Well, I can tell you, I personally own 4 P320s and none of them do this. So this just could be something to this particular model or this particular trigger in this model, or it could be an anomaly in the P320. But I also had it in the SP2022. That one was old and used. This one is brand new out of the box. So I will let you decide what that means. But shooting this is kind of weird. I don't like that. And as I said, I don't think this is something that's going to be found across the board. But with this particular example, and I only have one example to review, it has this. So I will have to deduct points for it. I don't have the luxury of having multiple examples. But you guys can tell me in the comments if you own a P320, if your trigger is like this. I also experienced another problem. This gun is having very weak and erratic ejections. Sometimes it is ejecting to the left, sometimes it's to the right, sometimes it just kind of dribbles out, sometimes it looks normal and healthy. I know some of you guys are going to wonder, what ammunition were you using? I was using 124 grain American Eagle, stuff that I use all the time in almost all of my range reports. It runs fine. It doesn't seem to be underloaded. So this could be one of two issues. It could be a weak extractor spring, or it could be too strong of a recoil spring. That's just my first thoughts, but I could be wrong, and it could be something else. Will this problem resolve itself over time? Now, I've shot Berettas in the past, like the Beretta APX that had weak ejection, but you have to shoot it and it has to have a break-in period. I'm not a big fan if a gun has to have a break-in period. It should run pretty well out of the box, and these weak ejections aren't something that I would want on my first magazine. But I'm going to re-show that exact same range footage in case you weren't paying attention and you guys can see that weak ejection, and then we'll talk about it a little bit more on the other side. And so if you didn't notice the first time, hopefully you did on the second time. So you guys might have some other ideas of what's causing this. Now, I don't have any other ammunition besides this American Eagle 124 grain that I'm running through it, but I've never had any problems with it. It doesn't seem to be underpowered. Now, these weak ejections can cause issues later, and we're going to see if that actually happens. But now let's get on to what I call the accuracy portion. No, I'm not going to bench rest this. Now that I know how this gun shoots and how this trigger, which is kind of weird, feels, I want to shoot this gun at a further distance. So I'm going to go for the head on this IDPA target, see if this group opens up and if I can shoot this thing any more accurately. So let's see how I do. And I'll tell you, from having to shoot this thing and being behind the gun, having to count 2 clicks for a reset is really weird when you've trained for so long with a single reset. It is just weird. That false reset is something that is very, very distracting. And now that I've kind of gotten used to what the gun is, it's still shooting pretty accurate, not as good as I would hope. I think it has a lot to do with the trigger. All right, so as always, I want to give my wife Becky a chance to shoot this thing. So I'm going to load up another magazine for her. I'm curious to see what she's going to say. I'm curious if it's going to be the usual complaints, the flat face trigger and the grip texture. However, the grip texture on the stock grips is not too aggressive. So I actually think she's going to like this. I'm also curious to see if she's going to shoot this better than I do. Sometimes when I have problems with guns and triggers, she outshoots me and I get a different perspective. I get different eyes on this. So I'm curious to see what she's going to say. So let's load this gun back up and give her a shot and see what she says. And we've had our first malfunction, and this is going to be kind of indicative of this weak ejection. Now, I know some of you guys are going to say she must have been limp wristing. Well, upon reviewing the footage, she wasn't limp wristing at all. In fact, she had a really good stable grip on this, and this gun did not flip whatsoever. It kind of shocked her, and I was watching that ejection because she had mentioned something earlier when I was shooting it, and now I'm watching from behind the gun and I'm noticing it. So we had our first malfunction. So what does this mean? Well, let's keep shooting. Let's see if this thing's going to break in. So let me give her another chance to shoot this and see what happens. And this time we had a stovepipe. Yeah, pretty bad malfunction. So this thing's having some issues. She's having some issues with it. So I don't know what this means between the trigger and these malfunctions. This is just something I would not expect from a high-end Sig. But I know some of you guys are wondering, how is her accuracy? Well, let's take a look. And it wasn't her best shooting, so I'm glad it wasn't just me. This trigger really did bother her, and of course the malfunctions bothered her. So those are the things she didn't like. But she was really complimentary of the grip module. She felt that unlike many other guns where she is grip sensitive and that texture can be too aggressive, she actually liked this one and felt that the width of the gun was very comfortable in her hands. And she even liked the heavier weight of this particular frame. So if this gun had a better trigger without a false reset and without all those malfunctions, I think she'd really like it and give it high marks. All right, so now I want to do what I call the quick magazine change test. You guys know that some of you might carry this gun for personal protection or use it for home protection or might even use it in some type of competition. So being able to change these magazines out, I think is really important. And so if an average gun guy like me can do it kind of fast, well, someone that trains this way all the time definitely can. So I'm just curious to see how I do and how fast I can shoot this trigger in a short group. So I was able to change that magazine out really fast. In that first magazine, I felt like I had really good rhythm with this trigger, but then once I got the gun going again, I kind of stumbled because I hit that false reset and thought it was time to pull the trigger again, and surprise, it wasn't. So if you're trying to shoot this thing fast and you have this same trigger problem, you might not like it and you might stumble like I did. All right, I want to do one more thing. I always call it the gun porn, just the quick magazine dump. So we're going to see how fast I can shoot this thing. And with this weird trigger, will I be able to keep a consistent rhythm? So let me load up one more magazine. I'll shoot it as fast as I can, and then I'll give you guys my final thoughts. And that wasn't my best mag dump. It's still hard to get a good rhythm with this trigger, but I'll tell you, it's really easy to keep this gun on target because it fits your hand so well and it has that metal frame and it's really balanced. So what are my final thoughts on the P320 Equinox? Well, this thing has some awesome features. It has a lot going for it. The looks, the options, but the performance of this particular example leaves a lot to be desired. And I know some people who like to nitpick my range reports apart are going to say that both issues are not that big of a deal because their P320 doesn't do it. And I totally get it. As I said, I own 4 P320s and they don't have this issue. Why is it in this particular model? I don't know. Is it something special about this model? I don't know. Does Sig do something individually to the Equinox that they don't do to the other guns that could potentially cause this problem? I don't know. I only have a set of 1. That's the only data point that I have. So I can only judge these guns based off of what I'm able to experience. And my experience with this gun is not great. The gun has okay accuracy, but with a better trigger, I definitely think it would shoot better. I definitely think that without those malfunctions and the weak ejections, it would be more reliable. But as it sits, I can't really recommend it to anybody. It shoots okay, I guess. It feels good in my hand. It seems to be ergonomic. It's definitely a beautiful gun, but its performance, it's a little bit lackluster. So on my star system, how would I rate the Sig Sauer P320 Equinox? I know some people are going to be disappointed in this, but just based off of my experience with this gun, 2.5 stars out of 5. Now, these are issues that I definitely think can be diagnosed and fixed. Now, if I was Ken, the owner of this pistol, I might take this into a gunsmith or contact Sig and just be like, hey, my trigger has a false reset. Can you guys do something about it? And while you're at it, it's having weak ejections. Can you guys take a look at that extractor? Can you take a look at that recoil spring and tell me what the issue is? So it might be easily fixed and only a problem with this particular example, but I don't know. So if you own one of these Equinox P320s, let me know in the comments, do you have similar issues? But only 2.5 stars out of 5 for the P320 Equinox. So what do you guys think? Was this a fair range report? I tried to document all of my personal experiences, and you guys know I love Sig Sauer, and I own 4 of these pistols. So I always hope they're going to perform well, but this one just didn't. But I want to know if your experiences with this particular model mirror mine. So let me know in that comment section. We'll have a great dialogue, and maybe we can diagnose some of these problems. So let me know what you think. And as always, thanks for watching.